This is Keys to the Shop, episode 315, Growing and Connecting with Stephen Zinnerman of the Coffee Enthusiast. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFerio. I'm your host for the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I would really love it if you'd subscribe to Keys to the Shop. It really makes a difference with the show. It keeps you up to date with all of the content coming out. Just hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. I would also love it if you would share this episode or any episode of the show with a friend and let them know that there's this resource out there for their coffee journey, for their business. Still tons of people that don't know about Keys to the Shop, and you sharing Keys to the Shop with the people in your world is key. So thank you very much for doing that. If you want to level up your operations, your people, your management, or you want to start your business on the right foot, avoid needless mistakes, and build a foundation for the future of your coffee shop, then working with Keys to the Shop Consulting could be right for you. Just send me an email, chris@keystotheshop.com, and we can get on a free discovery call to talk about how Keys to the Shop Consulting can work with you either remotely or on site so that you truly thrive in your coffee business. Again, for Keys to the Shop Consulting, reach out to chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prima Coffee. Prima Coffee specializes not just in providing world-class commercial coffee equipment for the specialty coffee industry, but their focus is on helping you select the right equipment for your business. So whether you're talking about brewers, grinders, or espresso machines, under-counter refrigeration, small wares, Prima is an incredible resource to help you get outfitted and supplied with the best and the right gear for your context. And right now, when you visit prima-coffee.com/keys, you can get 5% off your order when you use the code KEYS5 at checkout. That's KEYS and the number 5 at checkout. And then you get 5% off. It's a pretty good deal. Again, go visit prima-coffee.com, explore what they have to offer, and don't forget to use the code KEYS5 when you check out. If you're in the market for commercial coffee equipment and you want to work with the best, then you need to work with Prima Coffee. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Barista series from Pacific. This is the line of plant-based performance beverages that is basically the standard setter for excellence in plant-based beverages worldwide. They are designed for and by the world's best baristas, and that matters because they're bench tested before it even hits your bench, before it hits your bar. So no matter what you use from their extensive lineup, you can be sure that it's going to stand up to the steaming process. It's going to have awesome texture for latte art, and then be balanced in the cup. So the coffee is always the star of the drink. Check them out over at pacificfoodservice.com and get it in your store today. Try it for yourself. Tasting is believing. I think you're really going to be impressed. So if you want to serve world-class plant-based beverages in your coffee shop, then you need to be using the Barista series from Pacific. Well, everybody, today I'm so excited to present this conversation that is a long time coming. Back in 2018, we had a conversation with a gentleman named Stephen Zinnerman, who at that time was living in New Jersey and was at the helm of the company, the Coffee Enthusiast. I met Stephen on the show floor of Coffee Fest, and it was a chance meeting where I was interviewing people that were just attending Coffee Fest, and I got to hear his amazing story. And I've stayed in touch with Stephen ever since then, have had lots of conversations, and have enjoyed seeing his growth over the years, the growth of his family and his business, the Coffee Enthusiast. And today we get to catch up with Stephen in this conversation. Now, outside of the coffee and roasting background, Stephen has been in higher education for quite some time, where he's worked over 10 years in different areas from university housing to environmental research and education. He is a graduate student studying environmental policy and management with a concentration in environmental sustainability. He is also on the board of the Coffee Coalition for Racial Equity, and on top of running the roasting company, the Coffee Enthusiast, Stephen has recently joined the roasting team at Counterculture Coffee in Durham, North Carolina. So Stephen's got a lot going on. And ever since I've known him, he has been the epitome of hard work, dedication, kindness, and enthusiasm, appropriately enough. So in today's conversation, we're going to be catching up on what's happened over the course of 3 years of just starting his business, The Coffee Enthusiast, to now through lots of challenges, late nights, different iterations, giving and receiving from the community. They are a known and established industry presence and leader that promotes connection and great coffee experiences. And we're going to hear all about that journey. There's a lot to be inspired by in Stephen's story. So let's get right to it. Here now is my conversation with my friend Stephen Zinnerman of The Coffee Enthusiast. Well, Stephen, welcome back to Keys to the Shop after all these years. How are you?
Thank you, man. I'm doing pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, busy as ever and doing well. Really excited to talk to you because I just kind of we met at Coffee Fest Baltimore back in 2018, and you were just hitting coffee hard then, and you've just not stopped since then. And so much has happened, and I've had the pleasure, as so have many people, to kind of follow along in your career. So, it's going to be great. I wonder what is. It's easy to just say what's happened between 2018 and now. Stephen, go ahead. But let's talk about what you did in the first year of after the interview. You started to really invest into TCE a lot more, and a lot of things happened in 2019. So let's talk about that. Where did things go, and how have things developed?
Things have developed a whole lot more. As you know, back then, we were just beginning to start roasting, and we were roasting on a little Bmore 1600 plus. I think it was maybe 500 grams of coffee that you can roast at a time. It might be a little bit more. I'm not sure, but it's not a lot. And so we're just starting to learn how to do that. We were really just built relationships, network with a lot of different vendors in the coffee industry, like Monin Syrups or 1883, and just trying to get accounts with different people, utilizing like Uline and just so many different things. That's what we were doing back then. It was a sprint. It was a hustle. Back then, we were running all over the place, just trying to figure it out. We were doing a lot of church events, just doing pour over coffee back then. And since COVID, and actually a little bit before COVID, we stopped doing those types of like pop-ups and service events completely, and just started concentrating on roasting. It was a little harder back then. It was a lot of people didn't take us as serious, even especially family, and that was the disappointing part. A lot of the times, people just didn't really know exactly what we were doing and how we were gonna survive and raise our family. We had 3 kids back then, and now we have 5. So the family has grown since then, and right along with the company. So it's been a lot of fun.
Let me ask you then, in that first year, as you were kind of thinking similar things as your family was thinking, like how are they going to make it, and you think as an entrepreneur, like how are we going to make it? You're doing a lot of different things, and it's not like coffee is your only thing. I mean, you all, you make honey, you are in academia, and you have, you're like a Renaissance man. You're like a Renaissance family. And so you have a lot of things going on. And so I'm curious, as you started to, really invest into the business, then what was the point where you started to see traction and say, okay, this is one of a lot of areas that we've been focusing on that we need to give more attention now, because we know it actually makes a bigger difference than other areas?
I think when we started concentrating more on roasting and getting that process right, even when we were just roasting on that Bmore, I was still shadowing guys that were on the Mill Cities and the Diedrich or Geese and any person that I could get a hold of that was roasting coffee. I would try to milk their brain for whatever I could, so I can learn just the rudiments of roasting and just kind of maybe implement that stuff as best as I could, and or compensate for something that I was missing from that Be More, and so I could get the coffee as close to like what it would taste at, coming out on any other machine. Um, I burned myself up a lot when we were roasting out of that Be More. I had sacrificed my little hand because I would reach in the machine with like a towel and take the drum out so I could cool the coffee faster. I didn't realize that putting that machine on the cooling mode, that it was literally still just roasting the coffee as it was so-called cooling. So I was really baking a lot of stuff. And so I started taking it out and using a little shop fan to cool the coffee down within 3 minutes. So because I didn't have a cooling tray. But once I started doing that, and the quality of the coffee started going up, and people started like tasting it and actually getting some real nuance from the coffee, like this is something here. We think we think you can, maybe you guys could excel at this. That's when we realized that this could be really real. So we started doing a lot more research on green coffee and started getting quality green coffee from reputable, providers. We started taking that a whole lot more serious, but that was still very hard because we're roasting on something really small, and we weren't buying full bags then either. We were buying like, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, maybe at most 20, 25 pounds of green. And, nobody, really provided that. I mean, you had your few importers or what have you, or green coffee providers. You had them that provided that kind of weight to us, but it was still going to be slim pickings. Like you weren't going to get like a anaerobic fermentation from Colombia in a 10-pound bag. You just couldn't get that. You were going to get something washed or maybe something natural, and it would be like a simple coffee, and you just had to roll with it. And we did the best that we could with that, and people started to take it a lot more serious. So we started to throw a lot more care into it.
Let me ask you then first, like I guess maybe as a two-parter, who are these people? Are they customers, peers that you're sending the coffee to?
Yeah.
And then before the validation, I guess, you still had to invest so much energy in voting for yourself and having confidence in yourself, even without that validation that would cause you to say, look, we're going to keep investing into this and making progress, whether or not people are telling us, hey, you got something here. You kind of thought, I have something here, and it's going to take a little bit to really get other people on board. So those are a couple things I'm curious about.
Yeah, it was family. I would just send my brother-in-law, and my sister. I would send them coffee, and they're heavy coffee drinkers, and they drink a lot of. They're in Savannah, Georgia, so they drink a lot of Perk coffee roasters. They're back and forth in Atlanta, so there's, you have Portrait and a lot of other, people there, and I don't think Portrait was even around at that time, so it was like East Pole and a couple of other shops in the Atlanta area that were around. So we had to be comparable. And we had to try our best. So it was friends. There was a lot of giveaways. There wasn't a lot of money. There's still not a whole lot of money being made with the business, but there's a whole lot more than it was back then, because we were just giving away stuff back then just so people would try it. I would take coffee, samples to shops and just say, hey man, just baristas that I was cool with. For instance, a guy named Matt, who was working, then he was working for Jersey Java and Tea in Haddonfield, New Jersey. And I believe he's with Royal Mile coffee roasters. They're getting ready to open up he's getting ready to open up his first shop. Jamie Blanchard from Royal Mile is getting ready to open his first shop, and I believe Matt is going to be helping run that cafe. And I would just give Matt coffee, or another young guy named Caleb, young lady named Gabby from Square Mile Coffee Roasters that was used to be located in Philadelphia, but I think that shop has since closed. But they would just give me their opinions and let me know that the coffee was, oh man, this was okay, or man, I think you might need to work on this. I think maybe you might want to take this a little lighter next time. Or I would come back and they were like, man, this was great, or they would post about it. That used to be really cool too, and it still is. I love when people post about it, because other people are going to see that, and they'll see that people are enjoying the coffee that we provide. And so those were the things that we were doing back then, and still do some of it now, because I feel like we've come a long way, but we haven't, quote unquote, arrived yet. But we've come such a long way since just giving away coffee left and right, and not making much money at all since 2018.
So in the midst of that, as you continued to get better and get more of a singular focus on your roasting, what things for TCE did you start to invest in beyond that? Like you did events, you did a lot of events.
Oh yeah,
and that had to take kind of you had to take a bit of a break in order to focus on the roasting. Did those things come back, and in what format?
We did take a break from doing a lot of the events. Those events provided us the opportunity to make a little bit of money, to invest in more, like better brewing equipment, better supplies, up to date supplies, stuff that specialty coffee people would recognize. And surprisingly, a lot of those events had a lot of specialty, even churches. There's a lot of church people that drink specialty coffee, and they're very, very serious about it. And just taking a break and then concentrating on roasting, and then coming back. We did a few events after taking that. It was like maybe a year, almost a year and a half break from any kind of event. And coming back, I could tell that service was a lot more sharp. We could talk, we could speak to the coffee. The coffee started to have stories, instead of just saying, oh man, this is a coffee out of Ethiopia, or this is an Ethiopian coffee. We had stories behind it. We could tell people, if they wanted to know, about the farm or the washing station that it came from. We could name names and even put a face to the coffee, as well. Like, for instance, the Peixoto family out of Brazil, we still have their coffee, and we can actually put several faces to that coffee, and that's working on not just working on roasting itself, but getting more intimate with where the coffee is coming from and the people who are producing the coffee. That was very, very important to us. So that stuff it's paid off in huge ways since we took that break, and this kind of got that focus on roasting.
So now, in the past couple of years, you've been, I've seen you a lot more around the industry. You're on the board for the Coalition for Racial Equity. I see you just networking with a lot of other coffee professionals, and the relationships that you've built over these years, I'm going to guess, have really probably helped shape a lot of what your philosophy on TCE and its purpose is. So I'm curious about how, in the course of developing your voice in the community, and then bringing that, your battle-hardened why, the values that you have, when you were just hustling in these events and were on the down low really with TCE. Like, where are you with TCE's mission and vision, and how has that developed and changed, or what's the same in that?
Oh man, so really we're just now, honestly, getting to the point where we're sitting down, me and my wife, and we actually had two other people. A lot of people don't know about it because we didn't publicize it a whole lot. But we had two other people that were potential, like kind of like buy-in owners of TCE, but it didn't work out. And there's no animosity or bad blood there. It just didn't work out. They weren't as passionate as we are for TCE. But we started to come together and start to just write out things. And the connections that we made with people over the past few years helped to kind of shape that. Well, really not shape it just yet, but to get us ready to start to put it down on paper or in writing what TCE is. My wife used to always get ticked at me when people would ask, what are you guys' mission, or what is TCE? And I would tell people all the time, I don't really know what we are yet. I don't know what this is. I don't know what it's going to even become yet, because we're so young in the industry, and we're just now starting to be recognized a little bit. But we're gaining some focus on what our mission is. And it's really simple, just being able to connect with people through coffee and provide a great experience for folks. That's really what we're trying to do with that, and being able to educate folks if they so choose to want that education. I would like for us to be prepared to give it, because you don't want to bombard folks with a ton of information about the coffee. I had to learn that. I used to just, be serving people coffee at events, and I would just be blurting stuff out and just saying a lot of things. And I would notice that a lot of people would get less and less interested about the coffee, and they wouldn't stick around at the bar with us after they got their coffee. They would just kind of get it and mosey on along, and we would stand there, with empty space for a while until, if it was at an event that had like an intermission, people would rush us and we wouldn't have time to speak on it. Or we would try, especially myself, I would try, and the line would just get longer and longer and longer. And I started noticing people just walking out of the line because I would be trying to, tell people about this cool gesture that we have and where it comes from and these nuances that they don't like. Oh, you have to, sip that. You taste that lavender. I'm trying to make these people taste lavender when they just taste coffee.
Yeah.
And those growing pains like that, those help us, start gaining focus on what we can value and what our mission should be. So we're still in the process, honestly, of building that so we can actually put it down and so people can actually see that in what it is that we're doing. We want everything to gel together. And honestly, we're still, like I said, we're still trying to do that. We're still trying to make it mesh well. And it's just, it's been a journey. It's still going.
I love that story. And I'm just imagining myself in your position doing that, because I've totally done that. And I've seen people lose interest. And in a weird way, it makes me want to lean in more. Like, no, you didn't hear me. Lavender. Yeah. Like, and I see that I'm just killing them. And I'm like, I can't stop myself. I don't know why. What do you think is behind that? That, like, you can see that you're kind of pushing people away in a sense in the moment, but it doesn't stop you from continuing to do it. What was it that you were doing? Like, why were you doing that? And what is the new mentality towards approaching people with coffee?
I think I was just excited. I was excited to have learned something new, myself even. I was excited to learn something new, and I was excited. And coming from academia, coming from higher education, you naturally want to teach or you want to disseminate information. You want to tell everybody all about what it is that you learned in this book or this trip you went on, this conference that you attended. You want to give everything to everybody, and you want them to buy in too. You want to make them into this coffee enthusiast. And some people just don't want that. And I swear I heard people when they said it to me. I've had so many people, just pull me to the side. Hey, Steve, man, I think what you're doing is great, bro. But everybody doesn't want to hear that all the time. Some people just really want their coffee and they just want to go. Some people want to hear a little bit of that and they might gain some interest and go do some research on their own. Let them do that. And then when they think about it again, they'll probably think about you because you kind of started to steer them in that direction. So just, man, back off a little bit and it will hurt my feelings a little bit. And I'm like, oh man, I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to be the enthusiastic about everything and, tell everybody the things. And, I just had to just sit there one day and realize that. And I think listening to, it was either this podcast or possibly Cat and Cloud, talking about that very thing. And it hit me. I said, you know what? More than 4 people have said this. There has to be something to it. And I need to just kind of chill and listen. And the very next event that we had, as a matter of fact, it was our very last event in New Jersey before we moved back down to North Carolina. We were in Lindenwold, New Jersey, and we did an event. It was a 2-day event, as a matter of fact. I didn't talk about anything. No, I didn't talk about origin stories. I didn't talk about the cool geisha. I didn't talk about lavender or jasmine or did you get, the floral aromatics in this coffee? Do you see how amazing that is on your nasal palate? Like I didn't do any of that kind of anything to any, with anyone. I just served. And it felt so good to just serve people and to watch people walk away and to watch people come back, even if it wasn't even like an intermission or they weren't supposed to be leaving the conference. They were coming back and sneaking out of the conference. And, oh man, I just had to come and get another shot of espresso from you, man. It was just so good. That felt wonderful to not talk to people and just watch them enjoy. It's so much better sometimes. And I love to talk, but that changed my mind and my point of view on giving information, how you give the information and when. And a lot of times it's just good to just shut up and serve and enjoy the feeling of serving people.
It's kind of like if you want to make your customers coffee enthusiasts, and you kind of have to show them that you're a people enthusiast first.
Yes.
And then that will follow probably.
That's very true. And I always like to say that, I'm a people person. But honestly, I had to realize that I'm kind of, or I was kind of a people person. I was a talking person. I like the sound of my own voice. I like to hear the information coming out of my mouth. And, in the back of my mind somewhere, I was saying, oh man, I'm so smart. I'm so knowledgeable. And thinking that this was going to get people, on board. And I was completely wrong. And that humbled me so much. And that it's changed everything.
It's obvious that a lot of this journey has been personal growth and development. This is something that we're talking about now. And I've certainly gone through that. I used to love to imagine how I must look to other people with my clean bar behind, look at me and look at this and look at this stuff, and this is amazing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But then eventually I was just like, wow, just people don't really care as much as,
Yeah.
And so, but there's a lot of stuff beyond just the growth of your business that, and learning about coffee and people, that's all kind of within the borders of the growth of a business as we know it. But then there's the growth of your family. There's the pandemic.
Yeah.
So as a father and the leader of this business, and along with your wife, like you all are going through a lot of expansion growth, but what were the biggest challenges that you had to walk through that weren't just business related that really affected how you did end up approaching business?
Man, honestly, it was the growth of my family. We kept having kids. And I was like, man, how are we gonna what are we gonna do now? So
With that
it just
quiverful.
it made me take this business so much more serious. Because I mean in the beginning I wanted to have something to provide for the children. I wanted them to be born owners of something. I didn't own anything when I was a kid. My dad did expose us to things like, business opportunities. He would do different things. Not well, it's kind of like odd jobs. Like I remember my dad had a cleaning business when we were young, and we would get up like 4:30 in the morning and go clean Applebee's on Washington Road in Augusta, Georgia, where I'm originally from. And then I would go to school right after that. And we did that for years and years. And I never knew why. My dad was buying a house. He had went into like a weird deal with a lady where he couldn't afford to pay something on the house to close out the deal so he could purchase this home for his growing family, it was 8 of us at the time. And we cleaned Applebee's so we could purchase that house. So I felt like I had something to do with buying that home. I worked and cleaned bathrooms and cleaned the dining area and the bronze fixtures in the building when you first walk in the door. I remember all of that, and I was like in the 4th or 5th grade when we were doing that. And I just kind of wanted to put that on repeat for my children and do something like that. And what made me take it more serious again was the growth of my family. I said, "Oh my God, we have 5 now, so we got to do something different. We got to do something even bigger and better with this business so it can stay." Because in the pandemic, people were closing their doors left and right, and it scared the crap out of me. And my son Jonah, who's 1 year old now, he was born in the middle of this, at the height of the beginning of the pandemic. He was born. I couldn't even go in the hospital when he was born. I couldn't even cut the umbilical cord when he was born. I had to watch my son come into the world via FaceTime.
Oh man!
So it was really odd. But that just all of that stuff invigorated me, and it made me push harder and harder with this business because I was like, I have 5 of these things that I have to take care of, and I need this to last. I need them to have something that we've worked hard for, and that we've given to them, so they can reap some benefit down the line, and their children can do the same. So I just had to think of different things and different people that I could, possibly connect with to solidify our place or help to solidify our place. Because I still don't think it's solidified. I still think we have a ton of work to do. But there have been some people that, like yourself, Phyllis Johnson, Evan Einatone from Elixir Coffee. He's always a heavy supporter, always willing to give information. I can't name all of the people. I feel like I would be trying to, like, quote unquote, I'll be name dropping for hours. But just connecting with all these people to, see what it is that we can do that we can do better, to solidify our place, and to, for people to take us a lot more serious as a coffee company and as a family in coffee. I would, that having my children and watching them, grow, they get bigger, they need stuff. It does something to you. You're like, oh man, his feet are getting pretty big. He needs more shoes. So I need to roast this coffee a lot better. It made me take a class. with Ally Coffee, they had I think it was Rob Who's done like he did like a special class
Right.
alongside them, and I said, man, I'm going to pay for that so I can learn how to make better coffee. If I make better coffee, people will buy more, and I can buy more stuff with the business, and in turn still be able to pay ourselves a little bit of something to take care of our children. So it's really my kids that keep me motivated.
Yeah, it's an amazing motivation, and it's an ongoing thing. And I don't think a business is really ever complete or achieved a point of stasis where it's just like, well, now the business is what it is. It's always changing and developing, like a kid, and needs different things. And so when you're using that motivation, when you see that right in front of you every day, and then you go to your desk and to the roaster, and you have to make decisions about how to become more profitable, how to grow the business appropriately. I mean, what made the difference? Like, what was the thing that you saw? Now I'm investing in this in 2020, and I am seeing that was the right decision. I was hyper motivated, and especially in these trying times, and this is showing some promise.
One of the things that helped change TCE forever was me having the gall, and I say that not in a pompous kind of way, but in a very, very humble, and like me realizing that it was gutsy to do a fundraiser in the middle of a pandemic with so many people losing jobs. People were losing family members, not being able to bury family members, not being able to pay rent, not being able to pay their car. I mean, so many things financially were happening with folks, and still are happening with folks. And we had the nerve to do a fundraiser in the middle of all this. But you know what? People responded, and that made us believe that people believed in us. And we got a brand new roaster. It's still a small roaster. It's a 1 kilo though. And so we were able, and we're still able to put out, a couple of more pounds of coffee at a time and go back to back to back roasts. I mean, in an hour, you could put out a good bit of coffee for all the orders that are coming in, or you could just roast to order, or however you want to schedule your roasting. We could do it, and we could do it efficiently, and with much better quality. So that right there, that fundraiser, that changed everything quality wise, and how we would move forward as far as organizing, having a real roasting schedule, and feeling like a real, somewhat of a real, specialty coffee roaster. Having a drum roaster, even though it's again, it's a small 1 kilo, but it has like these different variables that you can control with airflow, drum speed, and heat, and just so much more. I was like, oh man, we are here, so let's keep working hard. And that was when I decided to take that class with Ally, when I got that roaster as well, so I could get better and just keep getting better. Making decisions like that in the middle of a pretty chaotic time, you got to have some guts. It can make a break. But the thing that we had to get in our minds is, people could either say no, or they could say yes. That's the worst they could do is say no, and then you just got to keep on till you come up with something else to keep yourself motivated to grow this business. But that was a key. That was a key thing, that fundraiser. And when people showed up for that, I mean, out of the woodworks, people were giving good chunks of money at a time that we could not believe that they were given in a time like this.
Yeah, I want to say that it seems to me, from following your career, that you've been making those types of decisions, not in an extremely public way, but they can either say yes or no, even during pop-up events, like people will come to the table or they won't. We're going to step out and we're going to show up every day consistently. Yep. And that's, I feel like that's the key that people are seeing in TCE and in you, the people behind TCE, is that showing up with the same values, the same enthusiasm, no matter what's happening every day. Kind of like somebody who has an old guitar, they're always practicing it. It's not a great guitar, but they love music and they love guitar, and they not necessarily complaining. They're just like learning, putting it out there, and then finally one day they get a new guitar. I'm way more happy for that person to get a new guitar, and I'm happy to pay for that person to get a new guitar, because I know, out of everyone I know, that's the person who needs it and will use it and has already contributed so much. It's the very least, I think, that we could do for them. And I bet you that is in some way what so many of us think when we see examples like your business and what people thought when they're contributing to that. You're showing up and putting faith in the community beyond just the fundraiser itself. Just as the Coffee Enthusiast, you've always had kind of a generous mentality towards sharing information online and through your pop-ups and online especially. I see you on there all the time. So that's a value that I think a lot of people should pay attention to, because you demonstrate it so well.
People have given us so much, and it doesn't have to be monetary. It could be, again, information. It could be encouragement. And those are the people that we carry on our backs, whether they're Black, whether they're white, Hispanic. We don't care what the race is of that person and what their background is. What we care about is what they've given to us and what it is that we can give back, or that we can show them, as far as showing them appreciation as to what they've done for us. People like Lim Butler, Michelle Johnson, Ezra Baker, oh my goodness, Deanna Stubblefield, Cameron Heath. People like that, I think about those people all the time because of their encouragement. People like yourself, Aaron Fender, from Portrait Coffee, Jared Truby from Cat and Cloud. Me and Jared have gotten a little close. I consider Jared as a good friend these days, because of the time that he's taken out of his schedule to just give me a phone call, or to stop what he's doing, running 3 or 4 different cafes, just to say, hey man, did you write down what I told you to write down? If you wrote it down, pull it out and let me hear it right now. People like that, you carry people like that on your back, because you don't want them to see you fail. You're afraid. And it's the customers too, the people who buy the coffee and drink the coffee. You got people that come back and they buy this coffee over and over again. And I'm like, are y'all crazy? Y'all keep buying this coffee? But they say how good it is, or how much they like it. Their family likes it. Even if they don't drink coffee, people, man, I bought this for my dad, man, and he just loves it. So I'm gonna order it from you, man, every month, man. Look for me to come back next month. I'm gonna buy this coffee, and they hold to it, like a Daryl Reeves in Pittsburgh. Daryl Reeves buys coffee twice a month. Twice a month, I can always count on it. So I have to show up. I gotta show up because Daryl is coming. I gotta show up because Jared is gonna call me. I gotta show up because I feel like people like you are watching. And you may not call me and say it every single time, but I'll listen to a podcast and something that I might have been slipping in, or it may not be me. It's just something that you could see in the industry that people are slipping or falling short on. You'll call it out, and I'll be like, ooh, my slip is showing. Let me get myself together, real quick here. My thought process. there's a lot of things that you during the show, you and the guests of this show say a lot of thought-provoking things sometimes that can tick people off. But if it ticks you off, good. Now you can go think about it, and maybe you can go and change your mind, your thoughts about how you run your business and how you treat people. And that really has a extremely heavy impact on how what I think about coffee, what I think about people while I'm serving these people coffee. How I handle it's even how I hold the cup. When I'm getting ready to hand the cup to somebody, it's almost like I'm cradling it and handle it because I want them to understand it is precious, not the coffee itself. I mean, it can be, but this is I'm giving you myself, in this cup figuratively, and I just want you to, feel us, feel us, man, feel our energy through our service, and we hope that they enjoy it. And even if we're not, serving at an event, but you get the coffee out of your mailbox and you smell it, through the packaging or whatever the case may be, and you get ready to go in and you have your little get up, your little setup at home. And some people have some super serious setups. What they don't understand is that makes me nervous because I'm like, this person is serious and they're getting ready to brew our coffee in this serious setup. It better be good. So, like you said, we have to show up because people are very serious. Like they have Mazers and EK43 S's and all kinds of stuff this is at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the pandemic has brought that. It more than brought it. It's literally ushered the home brewing era of specialty coffee in a heavy way, in a massive way, and people are so serious, like about what they're putting in their grinders at the house. I've had people call it, hey man, you might want to take that a tad bit darker. I had some beans that choked my grinder the other day, and I take stuff like that very serious. And I'm more than happy to receive messages like that because it builds integrity, character in the roaster. You got to have some sort of humility to listen to that person, to what they're saying. They're
great.
Not saying, I don't think they're necessarily saying, hey man, I'm mad at you. You might break my grinder with this coffee. It's like, bro, I believe in you. I bought this coffee. At least, take the time to roast it so I can enjoy it. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, you make a great point, and that's really encouraging. All of that's super encouraging, and the point about just showing up for the people that have invested into you and the people you're serving, especially if we're in a coffee shop environment, this is an extremely people-focused environment, and so there's a lot to be motivated by. But when you talk about humility and receiving messages that might at first make you a little bit upset, like you heard somebody take you aside and, give you a little scolding for too much lavender talk, you know what I mean? And you grew past that and you're like now talking about it almost like a nostalgic way, like, oh, that was a really cool moment.
It was. They all are.
Yeah, hospitality is not just serving others, but allowing others to serve you. And so you have to, that's humility to say, I'm going to allow somebody into my world to help me. It can't all just be you showing up for other people, because other people are going to want to help you, and you have to receive that. And you've done all of that so well. And now, one of the things that I'm really excited to see out of all of these things too is that you've taken on a position in a commercial roasting operation, namely Counterculture Coffee, which is a huge freaking deal. So I'm curious how that came about, and you've only really been at the job under a week now, I think, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about that. How did this all come about?
Who, man? I have honestly, I took the advice. I took your advice that you gave me 1 year ago. I was standing at my espresso machine. I remember it. You were trying to help me steam milk better
Yeah.
virtually. I just got off of work, and I was just like, Chris, you say, all right, be there at 7:30, and we did that. And I remember you giving me some advice about um, being better, getting better in coffee. You might want to take a position at a cafe or at a roastery, so you can honestly see how this is run, and it'll give you a great idea of what you're made of, and if you really enjoy this industry. And you were definitely right. I started applying for different jobs with different coffee companies, and I was not getting any calls back at all, or I would get people literally tell me, "Man, I don't know if I could pay you enough to come in and roast for us." And I'm like, "What do you mean, man? You don't need to pay me a $70,000 salary. I just want to learn." And that's literally what I wanted to do. I just wanted to learn, and I just wanted to see how it was on another side, so I could understand from other people's point of view. When you see people like, I don't know, when you see Kyle Ramage or again a Lim Butler, and you can feel the humility. It just oozes off of them, and I'm like, I want some of that. I want some of that humility, and I wondered why. And I saw Counterculture had a position open, and short story, I applied for it, and I did not expect a call back or anything like that, but I got a call back from Franny at Counterculture. She's in HR, and she set up an phone interview with me. Did the phone interview, got a call back later on from Cameron Heath to set up a in-person interview. As a matter of fact, I got a call from Cameron and then an email from Franny, and did that. And I didn't expect it to be like it was with a panel interview. It was like 7 people in the room, and Cameron was not one of those people. So I was scared out of my mind. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? So I did that interview, and I was actually reluctant to even apply an interview for this job because there was some controversy going on about counterculture at the moment, recently, about, the treatment of people of color, the treatment of their employees in general. There was so much going on, and people were just canceling counterculture. We have cancel culture too. And I thought people would, I was thinking in my mind, I'm like, people are not going to be cool with me taking this opportunity if I was to get it. And I said, you know what? Nope. Instead of, standing out, protesting and, leaving I've done protesting before. I protested when Trayvon Martin was killed, and I was out there. I've been in the streets a couple of times at protests. And then I've always had this empty feeling when we leave the protest. That was it. We just marched in the streets, and then you get to where you're going, you stay there for a while, and then the crowd disperses. What are we going to do next? I kind of took that into my mind when it came to the counterculture position. All right, so we pissed off at counterculture. So what do we do next? What do we do? Do we stand here and complain and say, I'm not drinking that coffee, I'm not supporting that business, or do we do something about it? So, I took it as the perfect opportunity to do something about it. All right, I'm gonna go forward with applying for this job. I'm gonna go forward with interviewing for the position, and I'm gonna rock it if I can. And if they invite me back for a second or whatever, I'll go. And the third interview came around. They toured. They gave me a tour of the roastery. I fell in love with it, and I honestly thought they were just going to escort me out the door and say, "Hey, man, well, it's been good. You did great. See you later." And they didn't. They took me in an office and sat me down, and Cameron and Chris sat down in front of me and said, "All right, well, what do you think?" and this is the point where we offer you the job. You don't have to take it today. You don't have to even give us an answer today. Take some time to think about it, but let us know soon. Um, and then Cameron turns around and says, "So do you accept?" And I thought he was gonna give me like a week or whatever. But he turned around and said, "Do you accept the position?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And then he, kind of went over what I would be doing, and even the machine, old Samiac, that's sitting in the roastery. This is what we're gonna put you on. Starting off, you got a problem with that? Nope. And so I say all of that to say, we can protest, we can be mad, we can try to cancel, all we want, but what are you gonna do about it? And I felt like what I was gonna do about it, let's go work for counterculture here. Let's see for ourselves, but not just see for ourselves so I can go out here and say, what y'all were talking about, it was right. Counterculture does this and they are like this and they're like that. That's not what I'm there for. I'm there to work and I'm there to make an impact. I'm on a team of people. I'm not Stephen, from TCE at Counterculture. I'm Stephen that works for Counterculture while I'm there. And that's not something that's rehearsed or something that somebody told me to say. That's what I say, because that's what it is. It is exactly that. Stephen Zinnerman, and I work for Counterculture on the roasting team, and I'll do whatever it takes to see that our team is successful on getting what we need to get done, meeting our goals. Breaking our bodies in this facility. People they take the coffee industry, they see it and they see Disney World a little bit. Let's go play. Let's go and have fun. It's fun. It's beautiful. It's great. The stories are they're heartwarming and touching, but there's real work to be done. Like you Wolf, I failed yesterday. I was putting 17-pound batches in little buckets to give to my coworker Simon, who is an excellent roaster, by the way, and he's just an apprentice. I never would have thought that. But I'm doing this, and I ended up falling down off of a 2-foot space from onto a cement, floor. And you just get up, you wipe your little pants off, and you keep on loading. And I see the rest of my teammates, going through things. They got finger cuts on because they've got nicked or cut or scratched or scraped. You got to run outside. There's 2 huge chaff collectors outside on the other side of the building that you got to take off to for Probat 1, Probat 2, and the lowering. And you have to empty those every, so many batches. And it's not just a little bit of chaff in those things. You have a whole, 55-gallon container. And there's several of those that you got to do. And then you got a 28 pallet shipment that comes in. You got to help, go through that. You got to help put that away. And Cameron's not just in the office upstairs having a good time, tapping on, computer buttons. He's roasting. He's fixing the Probat. He's sending off parts. He's taking a cooling tray apart. He's training somebody on the Samiac, somebody on the San Franciscans. I mean, he's everywhere. He's a machine. It's so it takes a lot. That's all I'm saying all of this crap for is it takes so much. And I've realized in this short amount of time of me working in this commercial facility as a roaster that something that you actually made a show about. I think you've done a few shows about this. I'm not sure. I may be dreaming, but taking care of your body, doing the things to increase the longevity of your body, doing a lot of things and setting up a situation for yourself ergonomically at work to, continue to be able to enjoy doing this work at a high level. Because, man, I mean, green coffee, full sacks of green coffee, I've had them before, but not even it's maybe a fraction of the scale of where I am now with counterculture. I mean, there's, these guys are, pulling 2, 3, 4 pallets a day, stacked 10 high, and they're roasting this coffee and they're, loading it by hand into the vacuum hopper to be sent over the air into their machines hopper, and they're running back to the machine, and they got things timed down perfectly, so they can do these things. And I see them, just busting their behinds day in and day out to get these goals satisfied, and it motivates the crap out of me, and it amazes me to see people move that quick and to lift that many bags, in a day, and to take a dislocated finger or something like that, like it's just a little scrape, and just keep roasting and dropping batches, back to back. And it's amazing, man, what I see day in and day out at Counterculture. I do see faces like mine at Counterculture in different departments. It's a super diverse community within the headquarters in the roastery at Counterculture. And man, I couldn't have thought of a better place to get this experience so I can understand and learn more about coffee. And man, I've met some amazing people already.
Man, it's a pretty immersive experience you're having in this short amount of time. And
yeah,
it really does highlight the sheer amount of effort that coffee goes through before it gets to us. And, from what you're describing, it's, think about that on the farm, the kind of work that they have to do on the farm before it gets to the roastery, and then just the stuff you have to accept in the roastery as part of that work, that hard work. And then, the work that it takes to run cafes in and day out.
Absolutely.
I keep thinking back when you said, I will do whatever it takes to help us hit our goals. That's what you've been doing for TCE all these years. There's sacrifice involved. There's hard work. It's not all pretty and pleasant. But, showing up as a servant, with a servant's heart, and being down to help the team achieve something great, all because of people in coffee is probably the most you thing I can think of. So
oh, man.
I think that there absolutely was a great hire.
I was super surprised that they even took a chance on me, and then me living. I commute to this job every day. There's an hour and a half drive there and an hour and a half back, because it's in Durham, and I'm currently in Fayetteville, North Carolina. But we're going to be relocating to Triangle area, whether it be Durham or maybe Raleigh or Garner or somewhere close by. So I want to dedicate myself to this experience. And TCE is still not going anywhere, but I just have to people have to understand, and I'm wrapping my head around, that it's two separate entities. TCE is TCE, Counterculture is Counterculture, and completely different, goals. So, well, I'll say we have the same goal in mind, and that's to provide great coffee experiences. But the way that we do it is completely different, and I'm just loving the experience of both. I'm loving the growth, both of them. I mean, I cup, with TCE, but I've never cupped so much between batches in my life as I have with Counterculture. I've never, I've not had the opportunity to work an Actron. I've never had the opportunity to learn how to, operate an optical sorter. But I'm getting these experiences already, and just thrown in there. They like, oh, you said you got roasting experience? All right, bet. Get on this roaster and drop a couple of batches of Big Trouble, and you gotta be ready to do it. You have to be ready to do it, and it has been fun, but I make sure that I get my sleep now, because once you get ready to go in the next day, you don't know what's coming. You have no idea. So you just got to be ready for it. And it's been a blast.
That's awesome. Super excited for you, and all that's, yet to come also in that experience, and also TCE. I guess my last question to you would be just some advice from you to those of us out here in the coffee industry who are wanting to grow ourselves. You know, we have our own little worlds where things are happening. We have a lot of there's family issues. There's the society at large. There's our own personal worlds and the professional world, and we want to make a difference in the industry in the midst of it all. And I'm just curious what your advice would be for people to stay motivated and have their sights set on things that will help them get through that to grow personally and professionally.
It's an everyday fight. You got to fight the voice in your head when it comes to imposter syndrome. Even me working at counterculture, there's imposter syndrome when I walk through the front door every single day going into that roastery. I'm like, oh man, do I really belong here? But once I get on the floor, I that's it goes away. It goes away. You just jump into it. You don't have time to sit there and wonder. You just gotta get to action. But listening to people who've been in the industry for a while, that's really been the thing that has helped us grow the most, is just listening. Once again, you have people like Phyllis Johnson, Matt Dax from Vogue Cafe. I can't even begin to think of there's so many people who have had an impact on us and motivated us. Maurice from Coffee Black. That's one of my good friends. His son Thurgood. That's my godson. The way he's broken into the industry and motivated people through what his story is, that helps motivate me. And we've been in the industry a little longer than them, but his energy is what keeps me going. Just so get around people with positive energy, no matter if they've been in the industry longer than you or a shorter amount of time than you. You can always learn something from somebody. There's never you're never going to know everything. You're never going to be a know-it-all. So if you're one of those types of folks, just get that out of your mind now. And I promise, if you just keep at it, and keep networking with folks, being super authentic and genuine, you'll make it to some places. But listening to people is the key. Listening to folks and actually implementing those things that they tell you, not just to listen and to get cool with folks. Listen and implement.
I love it. And be careful of how much you talk about lavender.
Yes, do not talk about lavender, jasmine, and rice syrup in a coffee too much. They will walk away from you.
Stephen, it is just really special and great to have you back on the show. And I've thoroughly enjoyed seeing your business, your family, your career all grow over these years. I'm really excited for what's ahead. How can we stay in touch with you at TCE?
You can definitely stay in touch with me through email, or you can, always hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. My email is Stephen@TCEcoffee.com. You can, catch me through that. You can also keep in touch with my wife, who's actually taking over as head roaster at TCE. Hers is Natasha at TCEcoffee.com. And we're TCE Coffee on Instagram and the same on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I think you're a treasure of a person, honestly. And
oh man, thank you.
Yeah, awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. This is an honor.
Well, everybody, I really hope that you took a lot of what Stephen was talking about in this conversation from his own life experiences these last few years to heart. How he has shown constance, pursued opportunities, infused his values in anything and everything that he was doing, shown up day after day, working to achieve those goals, and also giving and receiving from the community. His advice about connecting to and listening to those in your life is so, so important. And it's something that as you get older, I'd say from my own experience, you wish you did more of it when you were young. So take it from me, take it from Stephen. These are wise words, hard fought for, and it's awesome to see the progress and growth of Stephen, his family, and his business. So a big thank you to Stephen Zinnerman for being a guest again on Keys to the Shop. If you want to buy some coffee or stay in touch with Stephen, go follow him on Instagram. The handle is TCE Coffee. You can also go to tcecoffee.com. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback from me about this episode or any other episode of Keys to the Shop, please feel free to email me, or you can message me on Instagram. And speaking of Instagram, if you're not following Keys to the Shop on Instagram, it's just at Keys to the Shop, and that's on Instagram. So I'd love to have you follow us over there. Now, speaking of listening to people, everyone, there is a lot of resource out in the community right now in coffee, more than there ever has been in the past, for sure. There are more platforms for people to display their knowledge and expertise, and one of those platforms that's been around for what in 2022 will be 30 years, 3 decades, is Coffee Fest. CoffeeFest.com. Go there and check this out. Coffee Fest has been around for 3 decades. Coffee Fest is the number one place to go if you want to resource, energize, and educate yourself and your team to run a great coffee shop and have a great coffee retail business. There's superb educational opportunities there through lectures, workshops, trainings. There's the trade show floor where you can talk to all the great vendors about their products for your shop. There is also the competitions like latte art, as well as cold brew, and of course the community of like-minded coffee people like yourself that want to talk and share stories and encourage each other in making a great coffee business. So if you have not been to Coffee Fest, that's happening in 2022 in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, then Seattle. I'm usually always at Coffee Fest, so I'll probably see you there if you're there. And I'd love to say hi. Go to coffeefest.com to learn more. And also while you're there, check out CoffeeFest 365, their new online learning platform. CoffeeFest is always innovating to provide great resources. Again, go visit them to register today over at coffeefest.com. And with that is the end of our show today. Thanks everybody for joining me. I am so thankful for all of you. I hope you have a great week and you have an awesome Thanksgiving. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.